All right, welcome back, everyone, to Military Retirement Live. I'm Scott Tucker, and I don't even know if I have my right audio settings set up. How do I sound? Well, let me check. Yep,
You sound
I'm
good.
good. Okay, cool. So it's we're making progress where the settings remain for the next time. It's so funny. Like oftentimes you watch YouTubers and the guys have been out for years and they're still fumbling around with stuff. So I will not try to be a perfectionist when it comes to that. But I thought today's show, so little caveat and kind of how I came with this idea of the misinformation of military benefits. Yeah, it's a bit clickbait, knowing that word goes around a lot. But at the same time, people come to me because they're confused and they're asking questions. And so there's misunderstanding, misinformation, whatever. It's like nobody knows everything. And so it's often times that we tell our military service members kind of a blanket approach and don't take into account everybody's individual situation and thinking about various scenarios and stuff. So what happened yesterday was a client of mine hit me up and said, hey, I was talking to this guy or colonel, and he didn't, anyways, they're talking about life insurance for whatever reason. This is what he was asking me, obviously. And he said something like, he was asking him like, hey, did you know SGLI is actually just run by a private insurance company and you could just go to them directly and technically get a cheaper policy? And the colonel apparently said, no, that's impossible because if you're in a war zone, that wouldn't pay out the death benefit. That's the only reason SGLI exists. It's because military people can't get life insurance, and it's because the only type of life insurance that would pay out if you got killed in a war. And since we're in the military, there's a slightly higher chance that that might happen. And so that's just not true. And it's like a colonel thought that. A colonel's been in the military for 25, 30 years. And so that's a bit shocking. So I thought that would be the theme. We could, obviously we'll hit on this in other episodes, maybe a little bit more of an overview today, but let me bring on Gary and my wife, Jen, to give the military's family perspective, and the career service members perspective, as always. Of course, Jen was a Gold Star daughter and now hosts Holding Down the Fort podcast and talks to military spouses every day. I think you just got off a podcast with somebody.
I did. I was interviewed on someone's podcast show to talk about my story and why I do what I currently do in the military space, and a lot of that stems to the fact that I was a military kid for the first 10 years of my life, and then fast forward 20 years, I met you, and the whole military life had kind of come together to be able to see my purpose in the military community today. But it was really fun to just hop on and kind of reflect on my journey up until this point on that podcast show. So shout out to Kat. Sisters in Service is the podcast that I was on today.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, glad you had an enjoyable conversation. Thank you for joining us briefly for a topic. So Jen, I don't know, let you start off a little bit. As you're talking to spouses, I know you're kind of hearing about these subjects a little bit more. What's the kind of general thoughts on understanding of military benefits and the lack thereof, perhaps?
Well, I think we need to first start thinking about the perception of the military. And, I go back to just thinking about how my mom, who was a seasoned military spouse, post-military life, wanted me to join the military. I never did. I decided not to. I was like, Mom, do you remember what happened to Dad? Like, why are you encouraging me to go back into the space? But the assumption is that if you join the military, you're going to be taken care of. Whether you join or your spouse join, the service member, you're the military spouse, and then you marry into it in a sense. Like, you're going to be taken care of. You're going to have these military benefits. Just like how they always talk about, oh, get a job so you can get like your employee benefits. And I think that that sense of security can unfortunately be a false sense of security, especially if you just kind of set it and forget it. You're like, I got benefits, I'm taken care of, all good. They're telling me what to do. They're telling me how to be safe, or how I'm going to be safe and taken care of. And the reality is that it is a false sense of security. And I can speak firsthand from being a Gold Star family member, and how our family just catapulted into civilian life, feeling forgotten in a sense, and really just having the lack of information and education to recover as a Gold Star family member and really transition into civilian life. unfortunately, there's a high probability for many career military families that you're going to make it out alive. You're not going to be, you're not going to be like my family. And the truth is, though, is that, because you come out alive, a lot of you will, unfortunately, you'll start to find as the years go on, and Scott and I talk about this even with our clients, that to keep the current benefits that you were gifted, it ends up in a way hurting you more than helping you in the long run, especially if you just continue to have that set it and forget it mentality. So yeah, just really happy to share that perspective and kind of, de-romanticize what military benefits really are.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, so what that reminded me of is like this weekend, I was studying for the Virginia health insurance license exam. And, we're in the military, we're not really worried about the healthcare system. I know people with TRICARE, and there's TRICARE in and of itself is complicated, and people have all sorts of complaints. And maybe Gary, you can talk about that. I don't ever remember really dealing with TRICARE that much. When I think I was in the reserves, I did. But then, I'm learning about this healthcare system that we have, and it's insane. It's just absolutely insane. It's totally infeasible. It's ridiculous. All the way the cost structures and the PPOs and the HMOs and it's just laughably insane.
Yeah.
But it's super serious, and this is the way you get healthcare around it. So it's just like, misinformation galore in that. I mean, heck, just trying to pass that test and just know the very basics was hard enough. I got 90%, but
congratulations. I was very impressed.
But, so we're not going to get into healthcare, so much right now. I may be a licensed health insurance agent right now, but that doesn't really mean anything. None of these licenses, that goes for all of them, Series 6, Series 7, 66, even the CFP thing. It's a course. You memorize a bunch of stuff, you pass somebody else's test, and you get to throw a label on it. Some of the licenses are what allows somebody to get paid, but it doesn't mean anything when it comes to expertise whatsoever. And you can understand that in the turnover in the industry. It's a 95% turnover. I think very similar in real estate. And, that's the biggest misinformation out there is they always say, talk to your financial advisor, or financial professional before. And that'd be like, talking to a new car salesman every time something might be a little up with your car. What the hell is a new car salesman going to do? They're going to sell you a new car.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you how to drive it better or fix it. Okay, so that's essentially what's happening there. And so when it comes to things like, active duty, how your pay works, how the military benefits, such as SGLI, the VA loan, I think is highly misunderstood and misused because of the misinformation that's sent around. It's just an easy sales pitch.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's not doing what's in somebody's best interest. And so the bigger theme here is around military benefits. And what we want to do is answer specific questions. And maybe I'll ask Gary here in a second, like what were some of the things that he was confused about while he was on, going through the career. But ultimately, everything has a marketing angle on it. And this is what we're trying to peel back the layers on all things that I at least am aware of when it comes to military finance, military benefits, military transition, typically for the career military family. It's everything's had this nice sheen on what it essentially is on, a website or on a brochure. And that's how all marketing stuff works. But you got to eventually learn how to decipher it. And even going to a quote unquote an advisor or somebody you can pay, that's great. They might be able to give you some guidance, but what do they not know about something? Yeah. So, we're just encouraging folks, especially if you don't have to be like stuck in the system because maybe your income's higher or maybe you have more desire to kind of break out of the standard system, you're going to have to learn to peel back those layers. Hopefully we can, open that up to you. But I don't know, Gary, were you going to say something?
No, I was just talking about Jen's conversation. The last squadron I was in, we had a service member tragically pass away while I was the administrative officer. So I was part of the process of the distribution of benefits. And it was amazing the amount of benefits that we are not educated on, especially as even leaders within the military that have to go through this process and help people out. We are not educated to be able to consult on some of these topics if a family member has to go through that. And the other piece of it is like there's no real hand holding. It's sign some paperwork. Here you go. Here's the initial death benefit. Ready, set, go. And there's nobody there to help you consult you on what to do with that money and how to utilize it. And as well, and Jen, you probably know more about it as the years go on. I know there's additional benefits that you continue to get to a certain point, and nobody educates you. It's like, well, this is how I should probably use these benefits.
Yeah, you're right. Honestly, I think it was around when I was 23 when my, in a sense, military benefit bubble was starting to pop, because I still had TRICARE. I still had, my health. I still had the benefits. We were fortunate to benefit from Chapter 35. My siblings and I all got our bachelors. But at a certain point, it was all going to come to a screeching halt. Yeah. And it was something that I literally had to figure out on my own as an adult military child. My mom had no idea other than to say, hey, join the military, hey, get a government job. That was her solution, because, and good on her. She's actually been working for the government for 30 years now in SoCal. And I'm very happy for her to have, found that stable job for herself. And, at the same time, my mom, having been a Gold Star wife, had no idea on how to instruct her kids, because she herself was trying to figure it out. And, I want to I mention all this, but I also don't want to, talk about the doom and gloom of what could happen if you ended up being in my situation. It's more about recognizing the current situation that you are in, the high probability that you are going to make it out alive, and actually what that could cost you if you don't have the education to, fully understand what you actually do have. And so I agree with you that, it seems that, in a sense, and I'm sure there's many reasons for this, the military does everything it can to, paint this picture for you that you're safe and secure financially and you have these benefits. It's really that transition, though, when everything just all of a sudden fast forwards 100,000 miles an hour, and before you know it, you're out and you're like, whoa. And the kind of support, it's not there anymore. And you're left having to fend for yourself. You're left, in the civilian world, where the civilian world has a million choices, a million options. And if it's been ingrained in you for 10, 20, 30 years or 10, 20 years in the military that you followed orders and you were taken care of, it's a culture shock, And so I'm glad that we're having this open dialogue about this, not just for the service member, but for the family, really.
I think there's so many benefits that the military doesn't even market, and people, you don't know what you don't know. When you start out in this business, you do it for a specific job, or you do it either, some people do it because they get their college paid for, or they are really a patriot and they have a cause that they feel passionate about. But what you don't think about is, well, when that merry-go-round stops, how am I going to get off, and how am I going to transition myself to that next thing? It's something, it's an uncomfortable thought to think about, for one, but I think the earlier you start thinking, if you don't start thinking about it earlier, there's benefits along the way. The big one, the low-hanging fruit that I think about, is there's a lot of educational benefits in the Navy that they do not market that well, that I can use throughout the time to help increase my marketability, that if you don't think about that early, you're just going to miss out on it.
So the biggest misunderstanding of military benefits that I think people don't know about is that they should be subscribing to this YouTube channel and sharing
plug.
it with their friends, because I didn't share that important information with you at the beginning of the episode, the show, which is, just my fault. Yeah. I would just make sure that
you just did a disservice.
You guys, make sure you let me know if you see us live and I haven't done that yet. Please remind me. No, in all seriousness, though, that's how we're gonna grow this. Find people that have questions that want to get answered. But so I think, again, the bigger perspective, how we got to here with US VetWealth TV and US VetWealth and in the books I've written and stuff, is that, no, I did not do a career in the military. I did my 4 years at West Point, about 6 active, another 2 or 3 reserve. I don't really know. I just kind of stopped going, and eventually they sent me a letter saying I was discharged. And I was like, okay. but since I was overseas doing this financial planning type job, hey, Mr. Johnson, save for retirement, that kind of stuff. But since I was in headquarters, UCOM, Stuttgart, it was basically like doing that in the Pentagon. Everybody was career military or already retired, getting pensions, contractors, federal employee. They all had this very, very unique subset. And I couldn't work with Germans. So I had no distractions of any of the other. So we're back in America. I mean, we know the distractions here. I had people approach me doing life insurance for cannabis companies. I was like, oh, that seems like a good opportunity. We'll be the first ones there. Nope. But it was a distraction from what, we're really good at. And what I'm good at is because I was staying close to the career military folks, but I wasn't myself in active duty. And I was, this was right when the iPhone first came out. One of the stories in my book is that time I was sitting on a beach in Thailand getting an email from a client in 2010. And I was embarrassed that they might find out I was, working from a beach on Thailand. Like there's something wrong with that.
I think I remember that paragraph.
Yeah, because they, I could just tell how miserable these people were, to just waiting for retirement stuff, and I felt uncomfortable with that environment. So I was just watching. I was watching, folks that stayed in longer than they wanted to, just because they didn't know what else to do. People that didn't have any finances set up to maybe have more flexibility when they get out of the military to do again more what they really want to do, or they're in it, they're kind of making good money, and they're either overspending it or not realizing their tax situation, or not really paying attention at all, just letting 5-10 years go by, and then kind of being upset that their accountant didn't do something that, I don't know, they assumed it would, or just, so it's all just kind of a big guess here. So what I thought I'd do here, maybe we can expound on a couple of these points, but I'm just going to kind of off the top of my head, list out some of the main things that I've kind of noticed, again, from an outside perspective, but being very close to the career military. And of course, obviously working in the finance space there, that I just see over and over again. And I think the first one is being too concerned about taxes while you're in active duty, regardless of rank. It's just not enough money to be serious about this being a concern.
Yeah.
Okay. And being excited about, tax rebates and all that kind of stuff. Look it up. Okay. We're not doing that basic level education here. But it's dumb. Okay. So, but at the end of the day, if you're like Gary here and you got a couple of young ones, most of your salary is not taxable income. And the part that is going to be deducted for all sorts of different things. So you really end up paying. Now that's a huge shock when you get out, and now we're shocked that we got to pay a lot of taxes. So I think that's a big thing. The SGLI mistake, not understanding that's really not a requirement. It's essentially just outsourced to a third-party company anyways. The fact that an 18-year-old private is paying the same as a 56-year-old colonel. Yeah, that makes no sense in life insurance. As a life insurance person who passed the exam, again, this is the kind of stuff they tell you. That's called group insurance. That's all it is. And the problem happens is people get out of the military and they're like, all right, I guess now I got to replace that SGLI, and they got sleep apnea, which again now isn't even a VA disability benefit. That just came out. So now sleep apnea, at least you got some good VA disability. They've reduced that, but it's going to cost you more on insurance, let alone any other conditions that may come up, especially psychological type stuff, PTSD, TBI. Becomes very important. Not understanding that those obvious military related factors are going to come up and have just way bigger impact on your overall lifetime finances than any job would have. And so obviously there's that. You're thinking that SGLI transfers to VGLI without increasing cost, and being shocked at how crazy expensive that is. And that is a benefit. It's a benefit in the sense that if you are one of those people who can't qualify for private insurance, at least there's that. But people who can't pay that into their 60s and stuff. Survivor benefit plan, of course, not even hearing about it until very late in the career. Same medical things can be a hindrance to get that done. And thrift savings plan, of course, that it just, again, that whole marketing sheen on it. Oh boy, thrift savings, it just sounds so good, right? Thrift savings plan. But then actually,
they really know how to make you feel secure. They really know how to make you feel secure so that you can kind of set it and forget it, right?
And actually, going back to Europe, one of the things that I realized, what this game was really all about, they would on AFN, anytime you've been overseas, you see Armed Forces Network and AFN, and they do their commercials and they try to mimic their little commercials to pretend like you're still in the States watching commercials. And so they'll put up a graphic, just like if you were watching Bloomberg Business Channel or something, they're always got the charts and what the stock market's doing today. AFN would put up a thing of the TSP fund rates. Like that's useful. And if it would be useful, it would only be useful for people who are day trading their TSP account, which has become this whole thing on like Facebook where people have these huge Facebook groups. They're saying, I'm moving my TSP account. And then so all 16,000 people will make their investment just like that person. And nobody's in trouble from that because he's technically not selling anything, and so you're not supposed to give financial advice legally in that regard. And so this is why I got out of the financial advice game. I'm still licensed and technically allowed to give financial advice, but no way. Like I'm not taking that responsibility. It's your money, But so what else in the military? VA loan.
I'd say the VA loan, yeah.
So VA loan, common marketing shtick around that. You served your country. Yep. Don't you deserve to own a part of it?
0% down.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so we should get that. Oh, get a bigger house because again, 0% down. So now you can put forward property taxes, title. You got to have a job. All that kind of stuff. And I got nothing against real estate. I've had one main bad experience with real estate. It ended up working out. Roughly broke even, but but it wasn't an investment. It's a place I was supposed to live in. And for me, that's kind of the problem with the VA loan is home ownership isn't for everybody. And it's not necessarily always a good investment. The assumption that the real estate prices are just going to go up, maybe, but who cares if you're living in it? I mean, if you can't sell, like right now, what's going on right now? All these people that have got their great thing with a VA loan, prices went up. They have an amazing chance to profit, but they can't because there's nowhere to move to.
Yeah, that's right.
So, what if they had, instead of, been paying out that mortgage, they'd had more flexibility to invest in a business and all that kind of stuff. So all it means, obviously, if you're going to get a home and a mortgage, thank God we got the VA loan. Just like thank God we got the Survivor Benefit Plan and SGLI and TSP as kind of the basics. But so back to Thrift Savings Plan, the thrift part of that word is, I don't know. If you're looking to save like your biggest amount of all your assets, if you were say you were your biggest thing in your life was clothing, and you just were all about clothes, and you put all your money into clothes. Would you go to the thrift store to buy your stuff?
No.
I don't think you would.
That's a good point.
I don't think you would.
Yeah.
So what is it? It's just a cheaper index fund than the Vanguard ones. Yip-de-doo. Okay. Yay, great. If that's the goal and understanding. But here's the problem is, again, people are getting out in their 40s. This is the kind of misinformation. This is what you should be doing when you're starting to save for retire or save money and do financial planning when you're young. And all the money, thrift savings plan, put all your money in there first, max that out. Roth IRA, max that out. College savings plan, max that out. Yeah. So now you've got all your accounts. Majority of that, probably 90% of people's like savings, like real savings, is in retirement accounts. They can't touch their 60, and now they're 45 when they get out, and I was thinking about taking some time off, or maybe going to get another degree, or starting a business or whatever, but got to replace that paycheck.
Yeah.
And can't use the resources. Like, what's the point of saving the money? Because now you're just waiting another 20 years. Like, I hope the stock market keeps working out for the next 20 years. Yeah. So, just thinking more of, and this is really where what VetWealth came to be, is that the thrifty savings plan. That's funny. Hold on, I'll show this. Really, it was when I was like, realized like this whole financial planning. This is when I stepped away from the industry. I was like, this whole financial advice, financial planning thing is all supposed to be about money, but everybody's telling you to do the same things as everybody else, and it's mostly about saving for retirement. And so all the money that's saved for retirement is in retirement accounts, which you're not managing stock trading by yourself. Some people do, obviously, but most don't. So there's a management fee on it, and the incentive is to keep you to save money longer, because they have a longer time to take the fees. And I saw it. I saw what I was doing. I was told by my mentors to build up your client base so you can build up your assets under management. The whole goal was to get more people with bigger sums of money and putting more money into those sums of money and hold on to them as long as possible, because I could charge a 1% fee on that in perpetuity, even if I never necessarily talk to them again. And the responsibility is supposed to be on me to talk to them, but I don't know what's going on with their. I'm tracking everybody every day, so I was just so frustrated by the whole process, because I felt weird, like checking in, like, hey, do you want to? Because obviously the whole point of talking to them again was try to sell them something else, because that's what my firm wants, or my mentor, and I just, that whole thing I thought was the catalyst to all of that, because the standard approach when you're talking about it is, of course, you have to do SGLI, of course, you have to do TSP, of course, you have to do SBP. Before I could talk to them about anything they might do with me, I had to make sure they were doing the things that were considered standard. God forbid I get in trouble or sued or something because somebody wanted to do something different, right? So that's another reason to step out, is there's a liability factor when you're a financial advisor, because people just pass off that responsibility. And, there's a lot of financial investment advisors out there, and they're very proud of their portfolios and moving around, and, fine. I got nothing like that. I'm not going to put my money in anything like that. But anyway, so those are kind of all the top of my head stuff that's been bouncing around here in the couple of days. We're coming up on 30 minutes. We don't have to go necessarily any deeper unless any of you guys got anything you wanted to ask me about in a little more detail. But otherwise, let's like pick out topics to do on future episodes.
No, I think that you brought up a good point there. I mean, the travesty of you see somebody that has a financial advisor and then all their money is in mutual funds. It's like, well, it's double whammy. You're paying the advisor to manage your money.
Wow, I heard you spit. It was like a spit laugh.
I just spit because I didn't even think of that.
It's the double whammy. You're paying the advisor and then you're paying the fund manager too. When I see people doing that, I'm like, man, what are you doing?
Yeah, wait till you talk about 401ks and how those work. I mean, hey, listen, there's cost to everything. If you want to put your money in something and you're not managing it, you got to, you got to either share profits or pay somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And there were certain models available for the longest time, and now there's new models. Whether that's automation, whether that's fee for service, whether that's, again, profit, getting in kind of business with somebody in a way, with a financial institution, there's that kind of stuff is available as well. And I lost my other thought I was going to say, but no, I think this is good. Obviously this is what we're all about, just trying to add some other perspective. I know what I was going to say is that kind of all the old way of doing things, there's nothing older than the military, all the various military benefits. And yes, they just updated the blended retirement system, and that seems like an upgrade. It happened in 2018. They did the exact same change, really no different from the old system to the new system. For the FERS, for the federal employee retirement system, they did that in the early 90s. Same math, same everything. They just let the military people go longer. Why? That's a little harder to get people to sign up for the military than a guaranteed job in the government. And, they kept those benefits, a little better. But the fact that they did this whole big study, and I just remember that whole year was just like blog posts and videos, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay? Are you going to switch? Are you going to go back? And they would do all these crazy calculations and stuff. And I just, it's like, okay, make your own decision. But the whole point is, like, what's actually happening here? We're pretending like there's not enough money to keep this retirement planning shtick going. And, we can throw all this money to all the booze out, or to the, government contractors, buy more missiles and stuff like that. Or just print money out of thin air to pay for the last 2 years. And yet we think we're doing a cost savings things by adding the blended retirement system. And whatever choice you make, the whole point is, take a look at what's going on. These benefits aren't necessarily meant to benefit you. They're meant to make you feel good enough to stay employed with them. And try to be competitive with the private market.
Yeah, it's like they benefit you while you're in the service to give you that peace of mind that you're, quote unquote, taken care of. And, I think that looking at, starting to answering that question, like, when are we going to get out, thinking about post-military life, it could be quite daunting. It's like thinking about, it's no different than thinking about getting your will done or whatever. And, I just hope that our conversation today will at least give you all some more, I wouldn't say peace of mind, but definitely like knowledge and understanding that like it's better to know this now than later. And it's better to know than not know, because ignorance is not an excuse to the devastation or the consequences that could take place because of not knowing this. And so we hope that this helps. We hope that you guys enjoyed listening today. And thanks, Jared, for interacting with us. He's been commenting this whole time.
Oh, yeah. I'm keeping up. But no, Jared's the one who mentioned that kind of main question about SGLI. But all right, Gary, anything else before we go?
Great show. I'm excited for the next one.
Cool. No, this is fun. Hey, if you haven't listened to yesterday's episode with Patrick Weiner, that was yesterday March 1st or is today March 1st?
Today's March 1st.
Yesterday was February 28th.
Okay,
it's a new
so
month.
on that day, so February 20th. So if you're watching this later, go back and check out that episode with Patrick Weinert from the Money Mission. He just had some interesting thoughts on potential reverses in the market and inflation rates and all that kind of stuff. And so we talked about that a lot. And that's a little bit about what this book is about, Veteran Retirement Rescue. And really, who I wrote this for is people coming to me asking like, all right, I'm out. I've saved a lot of my retirement accounts. I don't really want to risk that crash. We've had a lot of good years of upside. I'm older. I want to kind of lock in those profits. That's what this is about. It also talks about kind of the risk, the demographic changes going on, the fact that baby boomers are retiring about 10,000 a day. So they're leaving the workforce, and therefore they're pulling their money out of the stock market to live on. That's what they save for retirement. Problem is when they sell out, somebody needs to buy it to keep the prices high. And there aren't necessarily enough millennials in the workforce and younger generation with enough money to essentially buy back those assets on the market to make sure that demand is high, so prices are higher. And the risk there is too much money comes out. That, of course, creates more supply than demand, which would lower the prices. And potentially, one of the examples Patrick talked about was that Japan was supposed to be the next big things economically in the 80s. But 89, they had their big crash. They still have not recovered to this day. So he reminded me of that, and I was like, yeah. So hey, there's new things out there. It's a strategy where you're actually buying insurance on your retirement investments instead of buying insurance on a life, right? So standard stuff that exists is just newer technology, new ways to do it, more efficient, sometimes no cost, even cheaper than the Thrift Savings Plan. Why? Because it's more of that profit sharing arrangement versus just handing your money out to somebody and see if they can get you a profit. Cool.
I don't think you can go back to saying Thrift Savings Plan anymore. I think you have
Thrifty Savings Plan.
Yeah, thanks,
now, I
Jared.
don't know if I can go back. I don't know if I can give them another dime now after you're like.
Oh, actually, I just got a fucking great idea. Okay, we're gonna sign off and do that idea right now. All right, well, take care, guys. We'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe and share the show.